Hi, this is a tutorial on how I send MIDI commands from my backing track player to my HeadRush pedal board to change rigs and scenes automatically for me. So I'm not tap dancing all night on the pedal board. I can actually concentrate on my performance. I play in a covers band and a duo. So the duo always uses backing tracks, drums, bass, etc. And this is the backing track player that I use. It's called a Cymatic Audio LP16, Live Player 16. It's a great little unit. 16 outs if you feel like putting every single instrument on a track and sending them all to the mixing desk. I don't, and I imagine most people don't, where I just have my track coming out of one output and my click coming out of the other. I haven't got the click plugged in. It's kind of a bit pointless for this exercise when I show you the final demonstration. Now, I imagine not many people are using these, I suppose, or at least not the majority. I imagine most of you are using laptops or some other form of player. If that's the case, it must be MIDI capable and have actual 5-pin MIDI out, not USB. The HeadRush stuff as yet, they haven't, I'm led to believe, they haven't got MIDI running via USB yet. So whatever you're using, you must have a MIDI adapter on it, a USB to MIDI adapter. So my DAW of choice, and may I say I'm not sponsored by anyone or affiliated with anyone here. I'm just a guy who plays in bands, so there is no affiliation. I'm not getting paid for any of this. I'm just doing it to maybe hopefully help some people out who might go down the same avenue as I have. So my DAW of choice is Reaper. Reaper is very good with the MIDI stuff. Has pretty simple commands. So that's what I like to use, but I'm going to hope that things like Cakewalk, Cubase, Pro Tools, etc., they probably have something similar, even if the commands are different. I wish I knew more about those and I could help people more with that. I don't, so you'll have to discover your MIDI commands by yourself. Hopefully there'll be something similar in your DAW, and this will give you an insight and hopefully a heads up on how you guys can do it as well. The thing you need to know about the HeadRush pedal board, a couple of things. Number one, it has very simple MIDI commands. All I'm going to be using is 49 to 60, just the foot switches. Foot switch 1 through to 12. And your foot switches, if you don't know the order of them, are pretty simple. Far left top is foot switch 1, and then it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 across the top. Then far left bottom is foot switch 7, and of course 7 to 12 all the way across the bottom. So we'll be using CC 49 to 60. Nothing for the looper, nothing for the blocks. Although one day I probably will experiment with that. So the first thing I've done is loaded in my track and my click. So now what I've also done is open up a track for MIDI. Now all I've done is open up a track. I haven't opened up a specific MIDI track or anything, just a track, and I named it HR MIDI. Name it whatever you like, I've named it HR MIDI. Now I need to insert a MIDI item. So now I have a blank MIDI item. And I'm going to say go with CC52, which would be foot switch number 3, which is my second rig usually on the pedal board. All right, that is where the cursor is now. I've got this sitting, for all you Reaper users, I've got this sitting in piano roll view, and I will click on. Didn't quite land on my cursor, but it doesn't matter. This is the start of the song. I will generally choose my rig, well, always will choose my rig when the count is going. There's my count for the start of the song. So I will put in whichever rig I'm going to be using at the start of that song, I will put it in during the count. Now, the thing you need to know about the HeadRush pedal board is when it receives a MIDI command, it won't receive it as a straight toggle command, which is really what we want. We just want to put in one command and it presses the foot switch like a toggle as you would if you were using your feet playing live. Well, unfortunately, via Midi, the HeadRush doesn't understand that. It takes the command as a hold command, like you were holding your foot down on the switch. So if I were to hold my foot down on the switch, it's going to take me into a mode where I can turn the amp on and off. I don't want that. I want a simple toggle. I want to be able to toggle my rigs, toggle my scenes, toggle the banks. That's all I want to do. Now, the only way you can do this is to send two commands. One will be a command to press the switch down. The other will be the command to release the switch. So you have to put in two commands. Now, it's pretty hard on here, although I will try to put in two commands. I can probably do it here. Right, I've got two commands in there. You can do it this way, but I prefer, I will delete that command. I prefer, and I'll show you why in a moment, to open up a second MIDI channel. So I've got my first command in. I'll actually move that to there. I'll delete that one. And I will put in my second, I will put in another MIDI channel. I can name it the same thing. And I will insert a new MIDI item. Put it back here. And in the same place, I will insert what we will call the release command. Now I've chosen, I'll actually change those. I didn't change that. In Reaper, there's a lot of commands. We only need those basic CCs, 49 through to 60. Now I said I was going to use command 52, which I will, which is something else I can show you now. I actually haven't forgot to change that. So at the moment it's sitting on command 51, which is okay. What I have discovered is that the first command up here needs to be at a value of 127. Now, I'm not a MIDI expert, but I do know that most things that run on MIDI, you have to assign a value somewhere between 1 and 120, 0 and 127. Now, the HeadRush pedalboard, for some reason, doesn't run 0 to 127. It starts with 1, so it runs 1 to 128. That won't really matter for what we're doing here. Also, people may tell you that you have to go into hardware assign and assign a MIDI number in there. You don't. You actually don't have to do that. You only have to do anything MIDI via your DAW and send the command to it, and it will get the command. So now let's go back into our first command we've put in. Now, I said that needs to be at 127. Again, this is Reaper stuff, so anyone with any other DAW, hopefully you know how to do it with yours, otherwise you'll be reading up the manual or discovering how to do it. I'm going to change to an event list, and now it gives me the number. I will now change, let's make that a bit bigger. I will now change the value to 127 here, because that's the highest value we can get in there. And the second one needs to be a short value. So what I will do, again, change it to event list. It's easier for me to work with. And I will change that value to 1. And this was all trial and error. I found a lot of this, although I did go on a forum and one person actually told me about the toggling issue, but that was about it. Now, what I have discovered is you can't have one command immediately straight on the same time as the other one. There has to be a gap between them. What I actually found, the best gap is 100 milliseconds. In Reaper, it's easy. I'll set it to 100 milliseconds and nudge it right. So there must be the same kind of setup in other DAWs. So I will nudge this right 100 milliseconds. Now, I don't know if you can see in this video, but let's take it all the way back. There is the little Midi mark there. That's the one for 127. That's the one for 1. So now what will happen, if I had a MIDI adapter straight out of my computer, if I clicked play now, it would send that command to the pedal board, and that would toggle on foot switch 51. Now, if I want to change it to foot switch 52, like I said I would just change the parameter in here. You can drop box it, or you can just type it in, apply and OK. Let's go to the other one. Same deal. Parameter 52, apply, OK. Now, as I said, when I press play, what that would do is now, before the song starts, it's toggled me into my first rig, my rig for the start of this song, which was foot switch 3 on my board. So, a bit slow and laborious for my liking, so what I actually did was cut these up right in between that 100 milliseconds. So I will split them at the cursor. I'll remove that one, and I'll remove that one. Then I moved it up onto the one track. I then glued it together. All glued together. I cut it a bit shorter. I don't really need it that long. And now what I've got is my command. So then what I did was I saved that straight away. So now all I have to do, now if I save that, and the way you save it in Reaper is export project MIDI, pick where you're going to save it and save it. Okay, so now you've saved your project MIDI. All I do now, instead of going through what I went through before, is once I've created my new track to put my MIDI on, I just insert, not a new MIDI item now, a media file. I named it AA MIDI template, AA so it would be first in the list. Insert that. If I go into that now, it's got it there. First command is 50 at 1/27. Second command 100 milliseconds later at a value of 1. Now, like I said, I use that template for everything. So if I want that to be 60 to operate foot switch 12, I just change both of them. And there we have it. Now, it is very, very important you have that 100 millisecond gap. It seems to work seamlessly. So the next thing is you've come up to the guitar solo part, and you're playing through and tracking your part, and you've found that your guitar solo needs to start right here. I hope my shoulder's not getting in that video. It possibly is. I hope it's not. Anyway, so we found the guitar solo starts right there. Okay, so I want to insert that MIDI item, or insert that media file again, my template, and we're going to say we said our solo starts there. What you want to do is set the second MIDI command right on it, right where you need your solo to begin, and move it to the left 200 milliseconds. Very important. Exactly 200 milliseconds from the point where you want this to trigger. I've nudged it left 100, nudged it left 200. That timing, it seems to take the pedal board 200 milliseconds to react. Now, I know it's not Reaper, and I know it's not my backing track player, because I previously did this with my Line 6 HD 500X before upgrading to the HeadRush. and I could land that right on and it would change instantaneously, or maybe a couple of milliseconds lag, and that was it. So I think it's a HeadRush thing, but 200 milliseconds is the magic number. So now let's say you want to change banks first before you go into your patch. We can do that too. So if your rig is the next bank down, we can do that. Let's change this command to foot switch 55, which 55 is the first one down the bottom left, which will drop you a bank down. Change it to 55. As I said, you can do this by scrolling down, or you can do it simply by typing in. So now that's activated the bank down, and my patch might be on, say, foot switch 2. So let's again insert my media file that I've made up, my template, and we will change this to, oh perfect, it's already there on 50, foot switch 1. Or we'll make it say foot switch, we'll make it foot switch, sorry, not foot switch 1, foot switch 2, we'll make it foot switch 4. So we'll change that to 52, to 53, 52, 53, whichever. I'll make it 53. Okay. That's actually foot switch. That's actually foot switch 5, so we'll say foot switch 5. But hopefully you get the idea. You can get that, by the way, from the HeadRush site. It's the user guide. This is actually in the HeadRush user guide. So if you go to the HeadRush FX site, you can download this, the user guide, and it has all this in it. So now I've inserted my second command, which is for the actual rig. So I've done this one for the bank, changing down, this one for the rig. So then I've got my solo down here. Now I want to get out of the solo. So let's put in another command. And go back to my original. So I've gone 53 here, which was the start, which was the rig I wanted for my song. I've gone 60 was my solo. I need to get back out of my solo. So to get back out of my solo, we'll change this back to 53, which was the foot switch to the rig. So I hope you're getting that at the moment. I think I'm being clear enough, I hope. So we've gone bank down, rig. Change to the scene for the solo. Back to the rig for back into the rest of the song. So you can put as many of those commands in your song as you like. You just have to find exactly where it is. Like I said, that's where the solo is. We'll move the lower command, the last command, second command, which will be the value of 1. We'll move right on the line and move it across 200 milliseconds. And now that will get out of the solo back to the rig at exactly the right time. Now what I've done for anything where I've had to bank down, bank up or down, what I've done at the end of the song that requires the bank up or down, I have put the other, when I've got to the very end, what I've done, after it, I've inserted my media file again. And a second one. And the first one will now be the bank up, which is foot switch 1. Foot switch 1 has a CC of 49. And then, doesn't really matter which command I put in here. I'll leave it at 50. That's foot switch 2, which is usually my first rig. But the point being that it doesn't understand, the pedalboard doesn't understand which bank you are in. So when you turn it on and you're in your opening bank, you need, after every song that you've played, if you've had the bank up or down, at the end of that song, you need to get back to that bank. So you're back in the original bank. Otherwise, it'll get confused and just press those foot switches. It doesn't recognise what bank. It only recognises what foot switch you're pressing. I hope that's clear. I hope you understand that. So maybe a better example is any song that I'm playing that's in the very first bank I use, which I have 2 cleans and 2 crunch rigs and 4 scenes for each rig. I don't put this on the end if that song is within that bank. If I have a song that's outside of that bank and I have to put in the commands at the start of the song to change bank, I must put the commands in at the end of the song to go back to the original bank. I hope that's clear. So now I guess I can give you a demonstration. So what I'll do is I'll put in what my original what my finished MIDI track will look like in this song. When we get there, still scrolling back, going backwards. All I'm doing at the moment is deleting all the stuff I did after I took out the finished product, which I already had in there, which I used on Saturday night for the very first time at a gig, and it worked absolutely seamlessly. Okay, let's have a look. Have I got everything in there? Looks like I've got everything in there. Right, that looks to me like how the song should look like. So what I've got is my bank down, my patch to start the song, and this one, by the way, so here's another one. That first command, whoops, that's gone crazy on me. I only need the first command. The first command is my bank down, foot switch 55. The second command in this song is the rig, foot switch 52. My next command is the scene, foot switch 56. So before the song's even started, I've gone down a bank, picked a rig, picked the scene out of that rig. So now I can stay in that rig and all I've got to do is change scenes. The next command is foot switch 58, changing the scene. The next command is 56, changing back to that other scene, which is pretty much the stock scene for the song. And yeah, right through where every change needs to happen. So I'll give you a bit of a demonstration and show you that it actually works now. I hope this has been clear. Any comments welcomed, questions will be answered. My very, very first video, so maybe I haven't explained it all that well, but yeah, I tried. So now I will swing my camera around, and I've already got the song loaded up in my MIDI player. All right, I had that getting held on by elastic bands. Okay, here's the HeadRush. Hopefully you can see. Right, there is the HeadRush. And hopefully you'll be able to see when I press play on the backing track player. No click in this because I haven't got the click plugged in. So here we go, see if you can see them change. So there you have it. I hope that was clear. As I said, any questions or comments, welcomed.